are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final.
Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Tuesday, April 2nd. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is GSMCPodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is GSMCPodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So with that being said, let's get into what we are going to talk about for today. So we're going to start off the show. We're going to talk about Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. It seems that Dak Prescott is going to play under his current deal for the 2024 season, and then we'll see what happens after that. So we'll talk about that. Then in the second part of the show, I'll talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'll talk about what they were initially planning on doing with Kenny Pickett when they signed Russell Wilson, as well as them pursuing wide receiver Tyler Boyd. Then in the third part of the show, we'll talk about the top revenge games for 2024, so I'll get into that as well. And then in the final part of the show, I'll talk about some of the moves that were made by teams that were looked at in a positive light, that were smart moves. And that will be how we conclude the show. But a couple of things I just wanted to get into to touch upon. One of them regarding Vontae Davis, who was a cornerback, hasn't played in the league for some time now. He passed away. He was found in his home in South Florida. He was unresponsive, and he did indeed pass. So my heart goes out to him and his family. To his family. Just unfortunate news, tragic news in the NFL community. I did want to read some of the quotes for social media posts that players posted about this, if I could find them. Because there were some players that did tweet about it. But yeah, that was some unfortunate news. I know. Well, the Dolphins, they tweeted something out. They said, "We are heartbroken by the sudden passing of former Dolphins cornerback Vontae Davis and extend our deepest condolences to his family and loved ones during this difficult time." Again, just tragic news in the NFL community, and again, my heart goes out to his family. I just wanted to mention that. And the other thing too is, I didn't mention it yesterday, but I am going to talk about the Chiefs at some point during the show today, about one of the moves that they made in the offseason. And that is regarding their wide receiver, Rashee Rice. So he was involved in a car accident, and allegedly he fled the scene of the accident, and police were looking for him, authorities were looking for him. Now, an article did come out that on NFL.com that he is cooperating with authorities following the reported crash, said his lawyer. So, that's something to keep an eye on too. I don't want to go into the specifics of everything, but yeah, it's not good. Not good news on that front. So we'll see what happens with that. Obviously, the Chiefs are waiting to see how that all plays out. But, not something that you want to hear either. So I did want to touch upon that as well. So with that being said, now let's get into what this segment here is going to be about. But I just wanted to touch upon some of these things because that's what's happened over the past couple of days. So again, not good news on those fronts. But again, keep an eye on the Rashee Rice situation and how that all plays out. But yeah, let's get into now. Again, it's always hard to try to like segue into what you're actually going to talk about when you touch upon things that are sensitive topics. But yeah, I just wanted to mention those two things. So with the Cowboys and Dak Prescott, it seems that he's going to end up playing under his current contract for the 2024 season. Jerry Jones stated, "We are where we are, locked and loaded for this year." Again, the all-in mentality. Dak Prescott is entering the final season of his 4-year, $160 million deal and cannot be franchise tagged next offseason. The Cowboys would carry a $55.5 million cap hold for Prescott in 2024, ranking second in the NFL behind Deshaun Watson, and would face a $40.4 million cap hit if he hits free agency. Extending Prescott's deal now is the only way to reduce those charges, but the Cowboys have not done so, indicating a potential upcoming parting of the ways after the 2024 season. Prescott's obviously coming off of an MVP season, passing for 4,500 yards, 36 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. So it's possible that Dak Prescott could be done in Dallas after 2024. And I think I have mentioned this, but it's kind of like, what happened with Kirk Cousins. Well, then again, the Cowboys did pay Dak Prescott, but now they have to pay him again. With the Washington, they just kind of were very fugazi with Kirk Cousins. They if that's the right word to use for that, because they never committed long term to Kirk Cousins, and then when they really finally had to make a move, they let him go, and he signed with Minnesota. And now, but I think it's because then again the market's kind of changing, and if Dak Prescott is really commanding for a $60 million contract, are the Cowboys willing to do that? I mean, I don't think Dak Prescott's worth $60 million a year. I think he is a solid quarterback, but I don't think he's a $60 million quarterback, because that kind of money you'd give to a Patrick Mahomes, a Josh Allen, a Joe Burrow. You're not giving it to Dak Prescott. You're just not. But that's what he could be commanding. And the Cowboys have to make a decision. Do they want to give him that, or do they want to go in a different direction? And, you go back to when Tony Romo was the starter and he gets hurt in the preseason of 2016. Dak Prescott, a fourth-round rookie, he steps in, right? I think it was the fourth round. He steps in and does a nice job, and Cowboys get the 1 seed, and then they lose to the Packers. But, yeah, then they moved off of Romo officially, and the rest is history. But, Dak Prescott and Tony Romo have kind of had similar careers so far where, yeah, Dak Prescott puts up solid numbers during the regular season, but you get to the postseason and they don't get the job done. He doesn't get the job done. And that's like what happened with Tony Romo. I think Tony Romo only had 2 playoff victories. Dak Prescott, I think, only has... How many playoff victories does he have? I think he only has 2, right? 2 or 3. Because he won 1 against the Bucs. Won 1 against Seattle back in 2018. I think he only has 2 playoff victories. Yeah, I think so. Same amount of playoff wins as Tony Romo. So they have eerily similar careers when it comes to, well, at least when you look at the playoffs. And Cowboys just don't perform in the playoffs. So, I mean, again, if they don't pay Dak Prescott, they let him walk. Well, what's the alternative? You got to figure out what your next move is if you move off of him, because you have a roster that can compete. The NFC East, it's right now it's really between them and Philadelphia. I mean, the Commanders, they made a lot of moves to their roster, but they're rebuilding. The Giants, I mean, they're rebuilding, I guess, if you want to call it. No, they are rebuilding. That's your competition. The NFC, not a loaded conference. Now, it's going to be better in 2024. But they have a roster that can compete. You have one of the best wide receivers in the NFL in CeeDee Lamb. You got one of the best defensive players in the NFL in Micah Parsons. A defense that's opportunistic. Look at what Deron Bland did and all of his pick sixes. You're getting Trayvon Diggs back. They got playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. Now, again, I don't know what happened in that playoff game against the Packers. They just were not prepared at all. But we've seen Dallas's defense have games like that in the past. So this is a big year for Dallas. I mean, Jerry Jones is talking about them going all in. But that really set them back. I mean, when you got your owner coming out and saying that you're all in and then you make no moves, well, you're really aggravating your fan base. And they got a big decision on their hands because you got Dak Prescott that's going to want to get paid. You also have CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons. They're going to want new deals. Where is that going to leave? What's going to happen? Because, again, I'm going to say it. You can't keep everybody. You can't keep everybody. So, I don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to pony up and give Dak the money, or is he going to walk away? Because teams always need quarterbacks. There are teams that always need quarterbacks. Now, again, wherever Dak Prescott ends up going, if he goes somewhere else, I don't think he's winning a Super Bowl wherever he goes. Unless, he went to, the 49ers or something. But they got Brock Purdy. So, I don't know. I don't know what teams would be pursuing him. I mean, you look at the Broncos right now. They need a quarterback. I know, the YouTubers I watch, the football YouTubers I watch, one of them is a Giants fan. And what if the Giants went after Dak Prescott? How crazy would that be if Dak Prescott became a Giant? After all these years of rooting against him and he comes to the Giants, I mean, I wouldn't really be that enthusiastic about it. I mean, compared to what the Giants have had, if they ended up bringing in Dak, it's an upgrade, but it's not really an upgrade that I think is going to propel the Giants to the promised land. But again, this is all just, hypotheticals. But, I mean, Dak Prescott will definitely have a market. There'll be a team out there that will give him money. If it's not the Cowboys. It's just what team is that going to be? I mentioned the Broncos. The Giants are another team, like I said, that, well, again, they're probably going to address it in this upcoming draft. I don't know. But if Dak Prescott ends up walking, what are the Cowboys going to do? Because it's not like, a Hall of Fame quarterback is going to fall into your lap. It's not going to happen. I mean, it's happened quite a few times for teams recently, and it's worked out, but sometimes it doesn't work out. You see what the Buccaneers did, getting Brady. That worked out for them. The Broncos getting Peyton Manning. The Rams trading for Matthew Stafford. Those all worked out. You got Super Bowl rings out of those. But then you look at, Drew Brees. I think when Drew Brees went from the Chargers to the Saints, I mean, he was good, but he wasn't the Hall of Famer yet, right? But then you have the Jets, who get Aaron Rodgers, and yeah, at least in year one didn't work out. Let's see what happens in year two. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe Jerry Jones will tell Romo, "Hey, listen, come back." No, I don't know. Yeah, it's something again to keep an eye on. I mean, the organization loves Dak, but I mean, maybe $60 million is too much. That they're just not going to do it, and he might end up playing somewhere else. So, but I mean, if he goes out there and has an even better of a season than he did in 2023, well, maybe that might force the Cowboys' hand to give him what he wants. So, keep an eye on it. But yeah, that's pretty much it when talking about this. Let me know what you guys think about the whole Dak Prescott situation. Will the Cowboys open their wallets and pay him what he wants, or is Dak Prescott on his way out in Dallas? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. So, with that being said, we're going to take our first break of the show. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. A couple of things with them, their initial plans regarding the quarterback situation before they pivoted and made a couple of trades, and their pursuit of free agent wide receiver Tyler Boyd. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're going to talk about a couple of things regarding the Pittsburgh Steelers, the quarterback changes, as well as them pursuing free agent wide receiver Tyler Boyd, who is still out there. I thought he would have signed by now, but he is still on the free agent market, and the Steelers are a team that have interest in him. So I wanted to I know I have the quarterback stuff second here on the segment title, but I wanted to talk about that first. So their initial plan, the Steelers, was once they brought in Russell Wilson, Kenny Pickett was going to sit behind him. And Russell Wilson was going to take him under his wing. Now, again, I mean, how much mentoring would Russell Wilson have done? I don't know. Well, we really won't know because then they ended up trading Kenny Pickett. But it just seems like that was never going to happen. The Steelers believed adding Russell Wilson could benefit Pickett and communicated plans for an open competition, but Pickett perceived Wilson's arrival as a deviation from the initial plan. Pickett expressed his discontent and preferred a fresh start elsewhere, leading to his trade to the Eagles, and then that eventually led to the Steelers saying, all right, well, let's go get Justin Fields for cheap, and that's what they did. So, yeah, their initial plan was have Russell Wilson mentor him if that was going to happen. Like I said, I don't know how much mentoring Russell Wilson would have done, but there was going to be an open competition. But Kenny Pickett was like, no, I want to go somewhere else. And that's what they ended up doing. And you know what? I think that is going to end up being that was the wrong move on Pickett, if that's the case, because I feel like now you're in a situation where Jalen Hurts is the starter. And the only way you're going to play is if he gets hurt. So, like, if there's no open competition there. Jalen Hurts is the starter. Now, again, we could talk about Jalen Hurts and how he turned the ball over more in 2023 and the Eagles, collapsed at the end of the season. It doesn't matter. Jalen Hurts is the starting quarterback. There's no competition. You're the backup quarterback. If he would have stayed in Pittsburgh, there was still a better pathway for you to start. It's just, yeah, you probably wouldn't start right off the bat. But if Russell Wilson goes out there and he struggles, well, you're going to get called upon. You're going to get put in. Because you're the only other guy. But he didn't want to do that. And again, I have questions on, if Russell Wilson was going to be a mentor to Kenny Pickett. But again, Russell Wilson, I know the last couple of seasons in Denver were rough. Well, the first season was. The second season was better. And we'll see what happens now in Pittsburgh. But Russell Wilson at one point was looked at as a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. You don't want to sit behind him and kind of, seek some guidance from him. Instead, now again, Jalen Hurts has been to a Super Bowl, but he hasn't won one. He lost to Patrick Mahomes, which, are you going to fault him for that? No, but Russell Wilson's been in the league a lot longer than Jalen Hurts, has been to 2 Super Bowls. Wouldn't you want to sit behind him and try to learn some things to better yourself? And again, on top of that, you would have a pathway to eventually maybe stepping back into the starter role. Because Russell Wilson only signed a 1-year deal for $1 million. Right? So, again, you want a fresh start. Okay, well, they traded you to a team where you're probably not going to play. Unless Jalen Hurts gets hurt. So, right now, Kenny Pickett's looking at being a backup quarterback the rest of his career. And the only game we saw Kenny Pickett play without Matt Canada, the Steelers had 400 yards of offense. And the Steelers, again, people around the league were saying, and fans, how is this team winning games? But they were finding ways to win. And Kenny Pickett, whether you like it or not, he was a part of that. And then when he got hurt, everything fell apart. Mitchell Trubisky steps in, and the Steelers started losing games. It looked like they're going to be out of the playoffs. People talking about Mike Tomlin, getting, let go. But then they made the quarterback change with Mason Rudolph, and they made the playoffs. And Pickett was healthy, but they didn't go back to him. So, this is on Kenny Pickett. I think, and he's a young player. I'll talk about one of the other moves that were made that were made recently regarding a quarterback, which I'll get into in the final part of the show. But you're a young player. You're like, I deserve to start. You gotta be humbled a little bit. Yeah, again, if that's what has to happen. But again, I don't know this. I don't know what goes on behind closed doors, as do you guys watching. But you kind of have to read the room a little bit. And honestly, if I was Kenny Pickett, I'd say, listen, there's a competition. Go out there and compete. And if you don't get the starting job, well, again, there's still a pathway for it. But that's not what he wanted to do. And the Steelers ended up trading him, and they ended up getting Justin Fields. And again, the Steelers, they've done some things that kind of surprised you. They pulled the plug on Kenny Pickett. Because they drafted him out of Pittsburgh, out of Pitt, and he was looked at as the successor to Ben Roethlisberger, but that ended up not being the case. They pulled the plug on him. They traded him. They got a whole new quarterback room, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. That's your quarterback room going into 2024. So, yeah, definitely a mistake on Pickett's part. I think you sit behind Russell Wilson, you let him start, and you know what? You try to learn from a Hall of Famer. Well, he's got to try to work his way back to being Is Russell Wilson still a Hall of Famer? Maybe that's something we'll have to debate at some point. But learn from a guy that's, been to a couple Super Bowls, that's won one, and then try to get yourself better. Because, Kenny Pickett, I guess he thought oh, this is my job. No, you got to earn it now. Because you have some question marks. But he just, guess he didn't see that. So, but that was the Steelers' initial plan, was have Pickett learn under Russell Wilson, which I think we all figured, but that just ended up not happening. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is Tyler Boyd. So the Steelers are interested in signing him. They brought in some receivers. They brought in Van Jefferson, Quez Watkins. They also, because of the new kickoff rules, they did sign Cordero Patterson, who is one of the better kickoff returners. So that was a smart move there. I think it was on a 2-year deal. But, they traded away Deontay Johnson. They're probably going to draft a receiver. But they do have interest in Tyler Boyd, who could be a nice number 2 alongside George Pickens. The Steelers supposedly have made an initial offer to Boyd, and they are sticking with it. So we'll see, what happens there. But, for Tyler Boyd, you're staying in the division. The Steelers, I think, are going to be, a decent team for 2024. If Russell Wilson can maybe turn back the clock, this team could be, a sleeper team going into 2024. Even though, again, they play in a loaded division, and the conference is, we know. But I think that'd be a good spot for him. To pair him up with George Pickens, you got Pat Freiermuth, a nice duo of Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. It's it'll be a good spot for him, especially a good defense as well. That would be a good spot for him. And Tyler Boyd's been a decent receiver throughout his career, and the Bengals have gone through some changes over the course of his career. But you know what? He's still been a productive receiver. And, the Bengals, with some of the things going on there, they got to pay Jamar Chase. Could they trade T. Higgins? If you end up losing Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, it's, again, I've said this, it's going to hurt. Tyler Boyd had 1,000-yard receiving seasons in back-to-back years in 2018 and 2019. Had over 800 yards receiving, 841 in 2020, 828 in 2021. But 2022 and 2023, receiving yards, since 2019, receiving yards have gone down. Now, again, that has a lot to do with them drafting T. Higgins, them drafting Jamar Chase. That takes away from Tyler Boyd. He only had 2 touchdowns in 2023, 5 in 2022. Let's see how many games he played in. So, played in 17 games in 2023, 2022 and 2021 he played in 16, 15 in 2020, 16 in 2019. Again, the lowest amount of games he's played in a season is 10. That's back in 2017. Other than that, he's been relatively healthy his whole career. But again, like I said, when you draft a T. Higgins and you draft a Jamar Chase, that's going to take away some targets from you. And that's exactly what happened. So I think he prefers to probably go elsewhere. Oh, and he actually went to Pitt. I did not know that. Oh, so see, Kenny Pickett could have stayed, and if they got Boyd, well, there's a receiver. You could have formed a nice Pitt connection in Pittsburgh, but that ended up not being the case. So we'll see what happens there. But again, I think whoever gets Tyler Boyd, I think that's a good signing. But we'll just have to wait and see what ends up happening there. He's still one of the top free agent receivers left, or just free agents in general. So we'll see if the Steelers end up getting him, because they have a need at receiver, and they could address it through the draft, which is something they've done in the past. So I could see that. But maybe they go out and they add a Tyler Boyd. And then, like I said, they've added a pair of, veteran receivers. I don't really look at Quez Watkins and Van Jefferson as veterans, but that's what they are. See, for me with veteran, I feel like you have to be in the league for a long time. like, Van Jefferson's been in the league since, what, 2021, 2020? I mean, I guess, this is going to be his 5th season now. So, okay, I guess, and Quez Watkins, I don't even know how long Quez Watkins has been in the league, honestly. Cordero Patterson is a veteran. I mean, he's been in the league for 10-plus years. I think this will be, like, what, his 11th season? Because what was his rookie season, I think, was 2013, 2012, 2013, around that. Yeah, let's take a quick look. But I like that signing because, again, with the kickoff rules, that was a decent signing for the Steelers. So Cordero Patterson, 33 years old now. So his rookie season, I think, was 2013. Yeah, it was 2013. Yep. So there you have it. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on the Tyler Boyd stuff where he indeed ends up going. So before I go into our next break, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is GSMCPodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is GSMCPodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So when we come back from our second break of the show, we'll talk about some of the revenge games for 2024, and we'll discuss them, give you my thoughts on them when we come back. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to talk about some of the revenge games for 2024. So we'll get into that. Yeah, there was an article Adam Rank released. So I thought, all right, we'll look at these revenge games here. So one of the main ones is obviously the New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles. Saquon Barkley making his return to MetLife Stadium. Now, I thought I was saying this, and I'm like, look, the script is writing itself. With the Eagles playing in Brazil, they could have had them play against the Giants. Again, exclusive Peacock game that it's going to be on. You have Saquon Barkley against the Giants in Brazil, the Friday of opening weekend. I mean, the script is right there. It's right there for you. And, again, I was hoping that it would not happen. And it's not going to happen because it seems like it's going to be either the Packers or the Browns is going to be the opponent for the Eagles, which I'm fine with that. Should be a good game either way. But we will see these two teams match up at MetLife Stadium, and that is going to be a lot of fun because you got Saquon Barkley making his return to MetLife Stadium. Giant fans not happy that he left to go play for the Eagles. And we'll see what happens. It could be something that happens. I mean, I don't know. Like, they could have it being played earlier in the season. Because, well, let's see. Well, they did play at MetLife the final game of the regular season. So, I think what you'll probably end up seeing is, well, actually, they played each other, twice in the last 3 weeks. So, they pushed that towards the end of the year. So, maybe they want to have Barkley and the Giants play each other at the beginning of the season in MetLife, and then you have them playing Philly towards the end of the season, which, again, is a place that the Giants have not won in since 2013. They have not won in Philadelphia since 2013. Just think about that. They haven't won in Dallas since 2016. So it's been a long time. But the Giants continue to beat Washington. That we don't have to worry about that. I mean, the only time they didn't was with Joe Judge, but we don't count that. So that's one of the revenge games. Then I guess the 49ers and the Chiefs will play each other in 2024. I want to just double check on that because I'm not. I didn't realize that the Chiefs had the 49ers on their schedule in 2024 because they did just play each other. Yeah, no, they play them in San Francisco. Oh, so that should be a lot of fun. Yeah, I guess it's because that's just that extra regular season game where they're playing against a random NFC opponent, and it just so happens that it's the 49ers who they just played in the Super Bowl. So that should be a lot of fun. That's a matchup that could be... Again, the schedule comes out, in May. So I don't know could this game be on Sunday night? Could it be on Fox, CBS? Could it be on Monday night? Because that's what they had the Eagles and the Chiefs when they had the Eagles and Chiefs play in Arrowhead. So they could have them play on Monday night. We'll see. But, we got a great game from the Super Bowl. It looked like it was going to be pretty lackluster in the beginning, but ended up turning into an all-timer, especially because that game was so close to going into double overtime, which I would have loved to have seen. Yeah, the 49ers, they're going to want to avenge their Super Bowl loss. I feel like that game might be played earlier in the season. I don't know. I might be completely wrong. But, if the 49ers ended up winning the Super Bowl, this matchup probably would have been the first game of the year. So, but we will see. We will see. Cowboys Commanders, he had just because Dan Quinn, is the head coach of the Commanders now. So, I don't really... It's Cowboys Commanders. See, it's different with the Eagles and the Giants because Saquon Barkley left a player left the Giants, a star player left to go join a rival. This, it's, a defensive coordinator taking another coaching job elsewhere. Now, maybe the Cowboys want to get revenge because, hey, our defense, it's your fault that our defense did it. Maybe the fans say that, look at this game and say, you made our defense play poorly against the Packers in the playoffs, so we want to take it to you. I don't know. But, I don't know. We'll see. Actually, another big one, Steelers-Broncos. So if Russell Wilson is the starter for this game, if they have not switched over to Justin Fields, which, again, I don't know. Russell Wilson will probably be the starter. So he's going to be going up against the Broncos. This is going to be in Denver. Russell Wilson's going to want to get his revenge. Well, he might not show it, but I think he's going to want to stick it to the Broncos because, the Sean Payton relationship, it was rocky, especially when you see him screaming at Russell Wilson on the sidelines on national TV versus the Lions on that Saturday night. That's an enticing revenge game there. And, again, maybe Russell Wilson's going to want to go out there and try to stick it to his former team. But we will see. You also got the AFC Championship game rematch and NFC Championship game rematch, the Ravens and the Chiefs. This game is going to be in Arrowhead, which seems like it's always in Arrowhead, even though, well, I shouldn't say that. Because the AFC Championship game this past year was in Baltimore, and then the last two times that Mahomes and Lamar Jackson faced off against each other, it was in Baltimore. And Lamar Jackson did beat Patrick Mahomes, which I think, if the Chiefs didn't make costly errors in that game, Lamar Jackson would remain winless against Patrick Mahomes. But yeah, the Ravens are going to have to go back to Arrowhead, take on the Chiefs there, which is going to be, I mean, this is so far in advance. But, again, exciting. And then you got the 49ers and the Lions. Lions, they will be going back to San Francisco for this game. I expect it to be a solid game. The Lions, they had a 17-point lead, and they blew it. And we could have very well have seen the game that started off the season in the Super Bowl. That's what it looked like it was going to be. Lions Chiefs, but we did not get that. We instead, we still got a very good game. But the Lions, people look at Dan Campbell's coaching, his over-aggressiveness as one of the reasons why the Lions ended up losing. They didn't run the football as well as they did in the first half. Because they were really carving up that 49ers defense, running the football with Montgomery and Gibbs. They should have stuck to it. But for some reason, it just did not pan out that way. And, yeah, they ended up losing that lead. I talked about the IU catch yesterday. That kind of changed the momentum of the whole game. But that's another enticing game rematch to look forward to. You got the Packers and the Vikings as well. Again, running back going from one team to another in the same division, Aaron Jones. Now, the difference is Saquon Barkley left the Giants to go to the Eagles. He was already a free agent. The Packers cut Aaron Jones, and then he signed with the Vikings. So a little bit different, but still the same thing, going from one team to another in the same division. So that should be an enticing... we'll see what the Vikings end up doing at quarterback, because, again, I like the Vikings roster a lot, but the quarterback situation is a little bit of a problem with Sam Darnold. So, he also had a couple of AFC South matchups. With the Jaguars and Titans one, that's kind of enticing just because the Titans ended the Jaguar season, and you also have Calvin Ridley on the Titans now, so that's something to look forward to. Also, he also had the Texans and the Titans on here as well. The Texans signed ex-Titan players. I think because, they added Danico Autry. The AFC South is going to be, again, it's going to be fun to watch because, in past years really hasn't been that competitive. 2024 it's going to be competitive. Again, there's question marks with Will Levis still, but the Titans did add pieces around him on offense. They traded for L'Jarius Sneed. They should be a competitive team. I don't know how many games they're going to win, but they could be competitive, especially in this division. So, even though, the division's going to be tougher. But it should be fun when all these teams match up against each other. Bills and Dolphins. You got Jordan Poyer facing his former team. Obviously, the Bills, they swept the season series with the Dolphins last season. And, and the Bills ended up being the number 2 seed in the playoffs. Again, it didn't really matter because the Chiefs ended up beating them. But, the Bills kind of derailed the Dolphins season. You got to remember, the Dolphins were 3-0, a 70-point win against, not 70-point win, but 70 points they scored against the Broncos, and then they go to Buffalo, and Buffalo wins, 48-20, something like that. So, the Bills kind of gave the Dolphins a reality check, and so both those games should be enticing during the year. Also, Ravens, Bengals. At least, you got Geno Stone, who the Bengals signed. He'll be playing against the Ravens, his former team. So, but, it's going to be fun with the healthy Joe Burrow, how these teams go against each other. Because at least, the first game was close, but, Burrow was not healthy. Well, Burrow wasn't healthy in both games. But at least in the second game, you thought this game was going to go back and forth. And then once Burrow got hurt with the wrist injury, that was it. And the Ravens took over that game. So, but yeah, those are all the revenge games. Let me know what you guys think. Which revenge game are you most excited for? You look at the championship games, the Super Bowl rematch. Those are the big ones. But then you also got, like I said, Saquon Barkley facing the Giants in MetLife. That should be fun. Aaron Jones making his return to Green Bay. And some AFC South and AFC North rematches as well. And, also Russell Wilson facing off against the Broncos, too. So, but yeah, let me know what you guys think about the revenge games for next season. So, we're going to take our final break of the show. When we come back, we'll talk about some of the smart moves that were made by teams this offseason. I'll get into that. Also, other moves as well that have been made over the last day. Nothing major. The Chiefs signing a backup quarterback, which I'll get into, because I kind of teased it earlier when talking about Kenny Pickett not really wanting to stick around in Pittsburgh. But I'll talk about it when we come back from our final break of the show. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we're going to talk about some of the smart moves that were made by NFL teams this offseason. So one of them was the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I know I talked about them earlier in the show today regarding one of their other receivers. And the move that they made, signing Marquise Brown, is going to become even more important depending on what happens with the Rashee Rice situation. They signed him to a 1-year, $7 million deal, and he was brought in to bring back those explosive plays that we saw with Tyreek Hill. Now, again, Marquise Brown is not Tyreek Hill by any means, but he does have that speed. He does have the ability, take the top off the defense, blow past people, and we could see those deep plays that we have not seen with this Chiefs offense. Now, has it really mattered? No, because the Chiefs have won back-to-back Super Bowls without Tyreek Hill, and without those explosive plays for the most part. Mahomes has had to air. We've seen Mahomes air it out. He still does, but not as often as we used to. And I'd like to see that again with Patrick Mahomes because, it's a part of his game. But the one thing that you have to say about Mahomes is his ability to adapt. Because when the Chiefs lost Tyreek Hill, you had some people on TV saying that the Chiefs weren't even going to make the playoffs. And 2 Super Bowls later, not an issue. So Mahomes being able to adapt and adjust and play a new style of have a new style of offense is that is a testament to how great he is. Because, with Tyreek Hill, it was like, oh, he's a gunslinger. You go back to his first season. Definitely was a turnover machine. Still threw 50 touchdowns. Well, I don't know if I want to say turnover machine, but yeah, he did throw interceptions. He did throw interceptions in 2023. He had, 14? Well, I'll say over the course of his career, Mahomes, he's tried to do too much, and that leads to mistakes. But, listen, when the money's on the table, he doesn't make a mistake. Well, in the Super Bowl, he did throw a pick, but the 49ers did not cash in. So, with everything that's gone on with the Chiefs and what's happening now with Rashee Rice, the Marquise Brown deal is very important. And they're going to need their other receivers to step up as well because, again, who knows what's going to happen now with this whole situation. So, also another thing I wanted to bring up because I talked about, I teased it a little bit, but the Chiefs actually did bring in a new backup quarterback. And that backup quarterback was an MVP candidate at one point. And that is Carson Wentz. And they signed him to a 1-year contract. Blaine Gabbert was their backup quarterback last season, but now they bring in Carson Wentz. And I think this is a great move for the Chiefs. And a great move for him. Because Kenny Pickett, younger player, like I was saying when I was talking about the Steelers, Carson Wentz, he was another guy that wanted to be a starter. And he wasn't getting that opportunity. So he did sign with the Rams. He backed up Stafford. He did start the Week 18 game against the 49ers, and he got the win. And I thought that was a nice move by the Rams because I still think Carson Wentz can start games for you, but his best days are behind him. And I was saying that about the Jets when Aaron Rodgers went hurt. I was like, go out and get Carson Wentz. Now, again, the way I'm talking about Carson Wentz, you would think like, wow, you think that Carson Wentz is still 2017 Carson Wentz. No, I don't believe that at all. But I think Carson Wentz, at the time of Aaron Rodgers' injury, was the best quarterback available. And you go out and you get him, and they refused to do that. They were like, oh, we'll bring in Trevor Siemian, we got Tim Boyle, we're good. Oh, and we got Zach Wilson. No. They should have went out and got Carson Wentz. The Rams did the right thing by signing Carson Wentz because I still think Carson Wentz, like I said, can start games and can still win games. But then there's also the other side of it where he can turn the ball over. Now, I think what the Chiefs did, I think this is a solid move for them. I think this is a smart move for them because Blaine Gabbert, yeah, he has started games, but I think Carson Wentz is an upgrade over Blaine. I mean, it's not really saying that much, but he's an upgrade over Blaine Gabbert as a backup quarterback. And knock on wood, in case Patrick Mahomes gets hurt, Carson Wentz could step in to a good system. You know, you got a good running game, solid offensive line. You have Travis Kelce. You're backed by a solid defense. I think that's a good spot for him. And you know what? He is adjusted because he says, you know what? I want to get another job. I could step into this role as a backup quarterback. I could be the guy to back up a Hall of Famer and Patrick Mahomes. I'm okay with it. He's in a good situation. He went from Sean McVay to now he's with Andy Reid and the Chiefs. So good for him. I think that's a smart move on his part. Smart move on the Chiefs. So again, I'm not looking at Carson Wentz as the same player from 2017, but I think he's a solid insurance policy in case something does happen to Patrick Mahomes, which, knock on wood, does not. Because we don't want that. Because if we see Carson Wentz, unless we're seeing him in the preseason, if we're seeing him in the regular season, that is not good. That is not good. And Patrick Mahomes has, for the most part, been relatively healthy his whole career, and we want that to continue, regardless of if you like him or not, because all he does is win. All he does is win. So let's get into some of the other moves as well. I thought the Bears' offseason in general has been solid. Trading for Keenan Allen kind of just came out of nowhere. You know, they already had DJ Moore. I mean, they let Darnell Mooney go, but you have DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, they signed DeAndre Swift. All of a sudden, they go out and they trade for Keenan Allen, who was the number one wide receiver with the Chargers. Now you kind of have a 1A and a 1B with DJ Moore. And on top of that, the Bears could also go out and draft another receiver. Get one of these other receivers that's available too, to go along with Caleb Williams. And you got a stacked offense. And really, they really didn't give up that much to get Keenan Allen. So I thought that was a great move on their part. Now, again, we got to see how Caleb Williams is if that's where they end up going. If they end up drafting him, which, yeah, I don't want to just be like, oh, yeah, they're definitely drafting him, and then all of a sudden they go and they shock everybody and they draft somebody else. But that's what they're going to end up doing. He's stepping into a good situation. You got two solid wide receivers. They could maybe draft another one. You got a solid tight end. Running game, I think, will be good with Swift, Herbert, Khalil Herbert, as well. And the defense was improving last season. So you got to like what the Bears are doing. Now, again, they got to go out on the field and show it. But you're giving Caleb Williams the weapons to be successful. And if he's not successful with the talent around him, well, then he might not be the guy. Now, this is his first year. He's going to be a rookie. But, you've seen rookie quarterbacks go out there and impress in their debuts. I mean, well, I know the first one that comes to mind. I mean, I go back to 2012. I mean, I think Andrew Luck, didn't he lose to the Bears in his debut? Well, I know RG3 had an impressive debut, but, after that rookie season, it was downhill after that, unfortunately. But, and you look at the quarterbacks from 2023, the rookie quarterbacks. C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young. Bryce Young had a rough first season. C.J. Stroud, the Texans, they catch fire. They end up winning their division and winning a playoff game. So, and Caleb Williams, he's stepping into a division where, yeah, it's going to be tough because the Lions and the Packers, those are the top two teams right now. If the Vikings still had Kirk Cousins, I'd rank them ahead of them as well. So, Caleb Williams is stepping into a tough division, but they got weapons. So, and an improved defense. So, you know what? They're going to give teams problems. And if Caleb Williams is what people are saying he is, as the next generational talent, although there's some criticisms about him as well, if he is that guy, well, the Bears are going to be a problem. So, but I love the Keenan Allen move. I was surprised by that. I honestly thought that the Chargers were going to work something out with him, that they were going to keep him. Because right now, you look at the Chargers receiving core, and yeah, it's not great. It's not great. They're going to address the position one way or another, but right now, it's not good. Not good. I know J.K. Dobbins, he was visiting with the Chargers, and, if he does end up signing with them, you reunite with Gus Edwards and with Greg Roman as well, who, again, my coworker who's a Ravens fan was telling me that, J.K. was complaining about Greg Roman because he wasn't giving J.K. Dobbins enough touches. So, be kind of weird if he ended up going there. I mean, hey, you reunite with Gus, so we'll keep an eye on that. But, yeah, Chargers, they're going to figure it out with Harbaugh. So, also weird that the story that came out that Harbaugh is living in an RV. I didn't know that. That's Harbaugh for you. Jim Harbaugh, not John. Jim. But that's the other thing too. You're going from one Harbaugh to another. At least that's what Gus did. Now we'll see if J.K. ends up doing that as well. Now I just lost my train of thought. We went from the Bears to because Keenan Allen, right? So that was again what the Bears did getting Keenan Allen. That was a good move. Couple of other under the radar stuff. I mean, you had the Eagles signing Bryce Huff from the Jets. They traded away Hassan Reddick to the Jets. We talked about that yesterday. Eagles defense is going to be should be better in 2024. The Lions also signing D.J.Reader to be a run stuffer. That was huge because he was a good player for the Bengals, and now they're adding him to their defense. So that was a good move by them. One of the best run stoppers in the NFL. They signed him to a 2-year, $22 million deal. So, and the Lions, their defense, could use some improvement. We'll see what they end up doing in the draft, but love what the Lions are doing. I mean, they, again, made it to the NFC Championship game. They could have been playing in the Super Bowl. But I've been on that Lions bandwagon since Dan Campbell started. With the kneecap stuff, that I was locked in. Once Aaron Rodgers left the division, the Lions kind of sent him packing after they, beat him in Lambeau to knock him out of playoff contention. Once he left, it was like, you know what, this might be the Lions division, and that's what ended up happening. And you know what, they're going to be competing with the Packers again with Jordan Love, but right now the Lions are the favorites again, and they're gearing up for a 2024 season where, expectations are going to be high. I mean, you won your first playoff game in 30 years. Yeah, now the expectations are higher, and I think the Lions will deliver. They'll be a good team. Happy for Jared Goff, that he's going to be the guy moving forward. Well, now the Lions are going to have to pay him too. So, we'll see what happens with that when that eventually comes around. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Be back again tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Again, make sure to tune in to all the other shows as well. Give the other shows love as well. Everybody's been doing a great job. More changes, more things to come in the coming weeks, as well as now we are in April. Draft is at the end of the month. So once that comes around, that'll give us more things to talk about. How teams are going to approach the draft. And then again, like I said, the schedule comes out in May, and then that's when you start, getting closer. Which I don't want to rush it, because right now I'm doing the football show, but I'm in baseball mode, because right now the Yankees are 5-0, and they're making me very happy. So I want that to continue. As much as I love football, it can wait. But we also, let's not forget, the UFL started. Nothing really. Well, a kicker made like a 64-yard field goal, so he could find himself in the NFL. Yeah, I got to try to work the UFL into some show segments here at times. But yeah, we'll worry about that at some point. But anyway, so yeah, again, make sure to tune into the other shows. Thanks for tuning in, guys. And yeah, with that is all the time that we have for today. Once again, we'll be back again tomorrow, same time, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And until then, I am your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and like I said, I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.